Hello, friends. Welcome to Frontal Lobe. I'm Dr. Saman, and today's topic is effect of neonatal hyperbilirubinemia on brain. So we all know that neonatal jaundice or neonatal hyperbilirubinemia causes various adverse effects on brain. In fact, altogether the goal of therapy of hyperbilirubinemia, phototherapy or exchange transfusion or whatever measures we take to reduce the bilirubin, altogether the aim is to avoid the brain injury, right? So we should know that what are the symptoms of bilirubin toxicity, and what are the areas of the brain affected, what is the metabolism, I mean what is the how exactly it works, and whether it is acute or chronic. So we should know all these things. In this lecture we're going to learn all these things. So first of all, you must remember this point, that the unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia is injurious to brain, because only unconjugated bilirubin can cross blood-brain barrier and it goes to brain. So unconjugated bilirubin, it can cross blood-brain barrier, and there it can cause uh, death of brain cells. So it causes apoptosis as well as necrosis of brain cells. Apoptosis and necrosis of brain cells, right? Now, normally what happens, this unconjugated bilirubin, it circulates inside the blood in the bound form with albumin. So when it is bound to albumin, it cannot cross blood-brain barrier. So unconjugated bilirubin, normally it circulates in blood in the bound form. Now, when it is bound to albumin, it cannot cross blood-brain barrier. It can cross blood-brain barrier only when it is not bound to albumin. So now remember this entire sentence, that the unconjugated bilirubin not bound to albumin can cross blood-brain barrier, right? Now two conditions are there, that the bilirubin which is unconjugated and not bound to albumin, bound to albumin. It can cross blood-brain barrier, right? Now, so by knowing this point, it is clear that if there are some certain situations or some certain compounds which can displace this bilirubin from albumin, then it increases the risk of brain injury by bilirubin. So please remember that free fatty acids and certain drugs, especially ceftriaxone. That is why we don't use ceftriaxone in newborns that frequently. So free fatty acids and ceftriaxone, they can displace bilirubin from albumin. Displace bilirubin from albumin. So but obvious, they will increase the risk of bilirubin toxicity. They will promote the entry of bilirubin inside the brain. Now there are certain situations in which blood-brain barrier is disrupted. So if the blood-brain barrier is disrupted, the bilirubin can enter brain even at the lower concentration, right? So there are situations in which blood-brain barrier is disrupted. What are these conditions? Can anybody tell the certain conditions in which blood-brain barrier is affected, it is disrupted? So these are hyperosmolarity. Hyperosmolarity is one condition where blood-brain barrier is uh, disrupted. Then there is birth asphyxia. Yeah, asphyxia due to any reason. It can disrupt blood-brain barrier and can promote the entry of bilirubin inside the brain. Then there is hypercarbia. So if the carbon dioxide concentration is more, then it can disrupt blood-brain barrier and then bilirubin can enter. So in this condition, when the blood-brain barrier is disrupted, then the bilirubin bound to albumin, even the bilirubin which is bound to albumin can enter the blood brain, right? So in this situation where blood brain barrier is disrupted, bilirubin, obviously unconjugated bilirubin, which is bound to albumin, it can enter brain. It can enter brain and cause damage to the brain cells. Now, jo, uh, the injury which is caused to brain cells by this bilirubin is called as bilirubin induced neurological dysfunction, right? Bilirubin induced neurological dysfunction, and इसको bind कहते हैं, BIND, और bilirubin induced neurological dysfunction. Bilirubin induced neurological dysfunction. So what are the areas of the brain which are involved in bind or brain induced bilirubin induced neurological dysfunction? So please remember these areas. First of all, basal ganglia, it affects mostly posterior part of the brain. So basal ganglia, then cerebellum, then white matter of the brain. It affects white matter rather than gray matter. Then certain brainstem nuclei, especially the oculomotor and auditory brainstem nuclei. So you can see that it affects mostly posterior part of the brain. Basal ganglia, cerebellum, white matter of the brain, and brainstem nuclei, particularly oculomotor and auditory. Understood? So please remember one thing, that this bind bilirubin induced neurological dysfunction uh, is it is more likely to cause damage in term as well as late preterm babies, whereas in term babies risk is slightly less. Please remember this point. This is very important. The levels of the bilirubin at which the safe limit can be different. It is always lower in preterms, but once the bilirubin enters the brain, the risk of bilirubin causing brain damage is more in term and preterm babies as compared to, term and late preterm babies as compared to preterm babies. Now, what are the neurological manifestations? How do this bilirubin toxicity clinically represent, right? So there is acute bilirubin toxicity and there is chronic. So acute bilirubin encephalopathy is something which is the effect of the clinical syndrome, the clinical effects of bilirubin, which we see in neonatal period only, right? So at the time when the hyperbilirubinemia is there. So this is called as acute bilirubin encephalopathy. Please remember, kernicterus is the chronic and permanent manifestation of bilirubin toxicity, right? Whereas acute bilirubin encephalopathy, ABE, is a term we use to define the effect of bilirubin on brain during neonatal period. So remember, this is in neonatal period. It occurs in neonatal period. So there are three phases. Acute bilirubin encephalopathy, there are three phases. There is early phase, there is intermediate phase, and then there is advanced phase. Right? So in early phase, symptoms are very, non-specific. So lethargy, the neonate can be lethargic. It can have poor sucking. Then it can have, hypotonia. Please remember, early stage mein hypotonia is there. And there could be shrill cry, high-pitched cry. high pitched cry. Now this stage is reversible. So if you take measures, the effect are not permanent. So the newborn neurological outcome can be, you know, it's good. Then neurological sequelae, the newborn, it can happen that a newborn is, you know, in future life, he or she grows normally without any neurological sequelae. Whereas in intermediate phase, what happens that early phase progresses to intermediate phase if there is no treatment is taken. Okay. So intermediate phase में the hypertonia develops. Hypertonia develops, and hypertonia mainly happens in extensor muscles. Hypertonia of extensor muscles. Extensor muscles. Hypertonia of extensor muscles is very specific feature of acute bilirubin encephalopathy. So what happens? You can find opisthotonus. Opisthotonus. So backward bowing of the infant, right? Belly will be upward and back will be, you know, curved. Opisthotonus, and then there could be retrocolis. Retrocolis is backward, this backward bending of neck because of spasm in the extensor muscles. Hypertonia in the extensor muscles, there is retrocolis as well as opisthotonus. Now, oculogyric crisis. There is another symptom known as oculogyric crisis. Oculogyric crisis. So, what is oculogyric crisis? It is because of hypertonia of certain ocular muscles of continuous upward gaze. So, eyes will be like this, and it can happens, you know, they can remain in this condition for hours or days or even weeks, right? So oculogyric crisis, then hypertonia of extensor muscles, there is opisthotonus and retrocolis. Then there could be seizures. Seizures can be there, and fever can also be there. Please remember, fever can also be there. So what will be the outcome? Now intermediate is something where the outcome is either death, the infant will, neonate will die because of intractable seizures or this hypertonia of the muscles. Fever is because of hypertonia only. You know, if so much rigidity is there in the muscles, fever can be there, and because of seizure also, right? So या फिर डेथ हो जाएगी, या फिर all the survivors will develop chronic bilirubin encephalopathy. या तो डेथ होगी या तो they will develop kernicterus. Okay, so this is kind of something which is not reversible. Then there is advanced stage. Advanced stage में now these symptoms will be very profound. So profound hypertonia of extensor muscles, complete opisthotonus. You can see there is a complete retrocolis. You can see then intractable seizures, not responding to any anticonvulsants. So this is, all the symptoms are profound. All the symptoms are profound, and there is very poor prognosis. Very poor prognosis. It is very unlikely that the child will survive. Intractable seizures are there, and apnea can be there, and respiratory failure can occur. So child will die of intractable seizures or respiratory failure. Now, if we talk about the chronic effect of bilirubin, then chronic effect of bilirubin is called as kernicterus. Right? Kernicterus. So kernicterus is something which we see in the first year of life. So normally what happens ki if you find that a child has symptoms of kernicterus, say there is a 9-month-old child which comes to your OPD with symptoms of kernicterus, which we are going to discuss in a while. So you can find the history of acute bilirubin encephalopathy, or you can find there was no history of acute bilirubin encephalopathy, but there was jaundice. There will always be the history of jaundice. कि भाई वो ये भी कह सकता है कि इसको उस समय भी न्यूरोलॉजिकल सिम्टम्स हुए थे, सीजर आए थे, डॉक्टर ने बताया था कि बिलिरुबिन बहुत ज़्यादा है जिसकी वजह से ब्रेन पे इफेक्ट आ गया है, ठीक है? या ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि सिर्फ बढ़े हुए बिलिरुबिन के लेवल्स थे, लेकिन उस समय एक्यूट बिलिरुबिन एन्केफेलोपैथी नहीं हुई थी। तो बोथ द कंडीशंस आर पॉसिबल, राइट? सो कनेक्टरस में it develops during the first year of the life and it is chronic and permanent sequelae. Basically, it is a kind of cerebral palsy. It is a kind of encephalopathy which is permanent and cannot be reversed. So, what are the signs? So, there are 4 signs. Please remember, there are 4 signs of connectors. ये बहुत पूछे जाते हैं एग्जाम में, वो भूलते हैं, ठीक है? तो व्हाट इज द वे टू रिमेंबर? प्लीज रिमेंबर कि एक इफेक्ट ब्रेन पे होगा, एक ईयर पे होगा, एक आईज पे होगा और एक इनसाइड माउथ, राइट? सो ब्रेन, माउथ, आईज एंड ईयर्स आर अफेक्टेड. तो व्हाट इज द फर्स्ट मैनिफेस्टेशन ऑफ कर्निक्टेरस? फर्स्ट वन इज सेरेब्रल पाल्सी. कौन सी सेरेब्रल पाल्सी? कोरियोएथिटॉइड. कोरियोएथिटॉइड cerebral palsy with neuromotor manifestations. Second one is sensory neural hearing loss. Sensory neural hearing loss, where please remember where BERA is abnormal, but BERA is abnormal, but otoacoustic emissions OAE is normal. Sensory neural hearing loss in this abnormal BERA but normal OAE. Number 3, limitation of upward gaze. So child may not be able to see upwards, right? Then there will be dental enamel dysplasia. So these are the 4 symptoms of kernicterus. There will be chorioathetoid palsy with neuromotor dysplasia. I mean neuromotor impairment. Then there will be sensory neural deafness, where you will find that BERA is normal. BERA is abnormal, whereas OAE is normal. Number 3, you will find that the limitation of upward gaze. Number 4, you will find that the dental enamel hypoplasia or dysplasia is there. That's all for today's lecture. We'll meet in the next lecture. Till then, thank you so much and happy learning.